Welcome to r/HongKong on my YouTube channel, where I share with you some of the interesting topics that we're talking about in the Reddit group. And of course, with this video, I get to share some of my opinion and sprinkle it on top of the discussion. To begin with, there's a really interesting video, which is basically a primer if you ever wanted to know why Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China. And it basically goes into, in its breezy 11 minutes worth of content, it goes into how Hong Kong came to be, first by the British, and then how it became much bigger than what it was because of the British and the Chinese, and then now what it is because of the Chinese. It's a really well done video, it's very informative, and if you're watching my channel, then I suggest you at least also watch that as well, because it's a really good primer on understanding the basics of Hong Kong. My hope is that it gets many more views than last year's series 2 of the Vox Borders series, starring Johnny Harris, who came to Hong Kong to share it with you also. The trouble is that Johnny's video was full of historical inaccuracies and actually went on to perpetuate certain myths that are existing here, not only actually here, but also in Asian culture. In a perfect world, those videos would have been corrected, re-edited and re-uploaded so that other people in the future can watch and understand a little bit more about this place. But no. And those mistakes get to exist forever instead, which is a shame because there are some genuinely good moments in his 6-part series, or is it 5? But when it comes to the overall view of Hong Kong, that's where the wheels start to come off the train, so to speak, in presenting Hong Kong to outside audiences. One glaring example, for example, is that Hong Kong was owned by the British for 99 years. Not just Hong Kong Island, but the entirety of Hong Kong. That is factually not true. The New Territories was leased to the British for 99 years, but as far as the British were concerned, they owned Hong Kong Island and the Kowloon Peninsula, the outcropping of land next to the water. Wow, the sun just came in through the window. So when the time came to give back the New Territories to China, or renew the lease, and when China said no, we're not going to renew the lease, certain journalists want to just say that the British owned Hong Kong for 99 years. And without getting into it, because this YouTube channel is not supposed to be political, the British didn't have to give Hong Kong or the Kowloon Peninsula, I said it right this time, back to the Chinese. But it was making no sense to separate the two regions of an already small region anyway, so they decided to give it all back. Now, this doesn't matter whether you think the British are right or wrong, or the Chinese are right or wrong. The facts remain, and Vox Borders overlooked this fact. A later episode perpetuates feng shui and the idea that dragons are being given freedom because there's holes in certain apartment blocks in Hong Kong. And it's dressing up Asian mysticism as a reason for designing buildings with large holes in them. And the real reason is actually far more interesting or boring, depending on your point of view, and it didn't need to be dressed up. The real reason why some buildings in Hong Kong have holes in them is so that it guarantees an airflow for the oxygen, the flying oxygen, yes, the wind, the flying oxygen that flies down from the mountain and doesn't actually impact the buildings that much because they have an outlet for that airflow to pass through. The simple explanation is sometimes the best one to go with, and it's not dramatic and it's not some kooky Asian shit either. But I think it's still interesting simply for the fact that this type of construction exists here. Now, there's more to it than that with the Vox series, and I might do a Medium blog post dedicated to it, but it's been a while now, I'm not sure. But it is going to have sort of feel-good factor if I throw out that information on the internet for all of those future historians to see, and then point the fingers at Johnny and say, "You're wrong. Jonathan said so." My biggest beef with it, though, is that as a casual viewer to the Vox series, I've never watched any of the previous series. Having found myself picking out the inaccuracies, it made me wonder, well, what's season 3 going to be like about another part of the world that I don't live in or know next to nothing about? Do I have to do my research and fact check whatever they're going to present in the next series as well? It seems like a lot of work, and it's one of the reasons why I've sworn on Vox Media for life. Interestingly, there was no need to rush series 2, and I was actually part of the research help, which was basically an email list of people trying to contribute to the Vox team to share with them all the little oddities that exist here, or basically lay the framework for the historical presentation of Hong Kong. What set me off was that the fact that the emails were too close together, and I backed out because I didn't want to attach my name to it in case it didn't present Hong Kong properly. And guess what? It didn't present Hong Kong properly.
How you're too defensive about the city? Why are you doing a video about it?
It goes deeper than that.
Now, for me, the finished product amounts to Johnny just walking around the city with his iPhone on a gimbal, narrating as he goes. That visual act in itself presents Johnny as the know-it-all tourist who is basically just passing through. His visual trick, trying to make his narration much more flashy or interesting for those who are attention starved by walking around in the city, actually made me think that that's what he's basically doing as that tourist who thinks they go somewhere for a few days and pretends to know it all. It's an apt metaphor for someone who just can't settle down and take everything in. Anyway, back to the video, because it explains Hong Kong in a very succinct 11 minutes about Hong Kong's relationship with Britain and China and how it created some cultural oddities along the way, like why the word come is used so often, and you can see it as you walk around the city. I'm not even joking. The government even spent money hiding, in some instances, the word come, because they seem to understand that it has a different meaning in the 21st century. But they still use it for official documentation. Hey, it means put cum in the bin. It's so juvenile, but we've all done it. By the way, Johnny, don't take it literally. It doesn't mean to put your cum in the bin, but you are supposed to put your trash in the bin. So there we are, but please, if you do want to visit Hong Kong, please come and visit.